What if the thing that's destroying you right now isn't the loss, isn't the rejection, isn't the diagnosis, isn't the person who left? What if it's something else entirely? Something you've been doing to yourself every single day without even noticing? Sit with that for a second, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what that thing is, and more importantly, you're going to know how to stop doing it. There's an old teaching that says, every wound in life comes with 2 strikes, not 1. The first strike is unavoidable. It's the diagnosis, the breakup, the failure, the betrayal. It hurts, and there's nothing you can do about that. But the second strike is different. The second strike is the one you deliver to yourself, over and over, every time you replay the moment in your head, every time you ask why this had to happen to you, every time you scream inside that this shouldn't be your life. That second strike is optional, and it's the one causing most of your pain right now. Stay with me until the end, because there's a story coming about a doctor and a broken bone that's going to change the way you look at every hard thing you're carrying. Before we go further, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. And if something in this video speaks directly to you, tell me in the comments. Someone else needs to read your words today. Now breathe, and let's begin. You've been fighting a war you can't win. Not against another person, not against a situation, but against reality itself. Something happened. Something you didn't choose. Something that broke a plan you had built your whole identity around. And ever since, a part of you has been standing in the wreckage, shouting that it shouldn't have happened. That it isn't fair. That the universe made a mistake. And here's the truth nobody wants to hand you. The universe didn't make a mistake, and you are not going to win this fight, because you can't defeat something that has already happened. The past is the one opponent that never loses. So every round you throw at it just leaves you more exhausted, more bitter, more stuck in the exact moment you're desperate to escape. This isn't a lecture about giving up. This isn't about smiling through pain and pretending everything is fine. It's about learning the difference between the pain that heals you and the suffering that keeps you frozen. And once you see that difference, you will never experience hard days the same way again. Let's start with something almost nobody understands correctly. Pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is the fact. Your partner left. Pain is real, immediate, unavoidable. Suffering is the story you build on top of that fact. The loop that plays in your mind at 3 in the morning, the endless list of reasons why it shouldn't have happened, the imaginary conversations where you finally say the perfect thing that changes everything. Pain lasts a moment. Suffering can last a lifetime if you let it. Because suffering isn't caused by what happened to you. It's caused by your refusal to accept that it happened. Picture someone who's just been struck by an arrow. That's pain. It hurts. It's real. And there's no version of life where that arrow never lands. But then imagine that same person picking up a second arrow and driving it into the exact same wound, again and again, all on their own. That second arrow is resistance. It's the mental war against something that's already over. And most of us spend years shooting that second arrow into ourselves without ever noticing we're the ones holding the bow. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your pain right now is the actual event, and how much of it is you replaying it, resisting it, wishing it away 100 times a day? For most people, the honest answer is that the event itself accounts for a small fraction of the suffering. The rest, the overwhelming majority of it, is self-inflicted. Not because you're weak, because nobody ever taught you there was another way to hold pain. Here's the second thing almost everyone gets wrong. Acceptance and giving up are not the same thing either. Picture a great oak tree standing in an open field, proud, thick, unmovable. It has stood there for decades, and nothing has ever bent it. Then one night a storm rolls in, and the wind hits that oak with everything it has. The oak refuses to bend. It holds its ground exactly the way it always has. And by morning, it's lying on the ground, split down the middle, roots torn from the earth. Now picture the bamboo growing nearby. Thin, seemingly fragile, nothing like the mighty oak. The same storm hits the bamboo just as hard. But the bamboo bends. It bows almost to the ground. It sways violently in every direction. And when the sun rises, It's still standing, untouched, whole. The oak thought strength meant refusing to move. The bamboo understood that strength means knowing when to yield. This is exactly what happens inside you when something breaks your life apart. You can be the oak, rigid, insisting things should have gone differently, holding a position reality has already destroyed, and eventually you snap. Or you can be the bamboo, bending toward what's actually true, absorbing the impact instead of fighting it head-on, and coming out the other side still standing, maybe even stronger for having survived the storm. Bending is not weakness. Bending is what allows you to still be standing tomorrow. Now let's talk about the doctor, because this is the story that changes everything. Imagine you fall and shatter your leg. The pain is unbearable, and you're rushed to a hospital. A doctor walks in, looks at the X-ray, and instead of treating you, starts arguing with the injury. This bone shouldn't be broken. This isn't supposed to happen. I refuse to accept this fracture. And then he just stands there, staring at the X-ray, debating with a bone that has already snapped. You'd think that doctor had lost his mind. Because everyone knows the first thing a doctor must do is accept the fracture exactly as it is. Not approve of it, not be happy about it, just see it clearly for what it is, so he can actually set the bone and begin the healing. This is precisely what most of us refuse to do with our own pain. We stand over our own fractures, arguing with an X-ray that already shows the truth, insisting the break shouldn't exist, and while we argue, the bone stays broken, because you cannot treat an injury you won't even look at directly. Acceptance is not saying what happened was good. Acceptance is looking at the fracture honestly enough that you can finally start setting the bone. Here's something that can dissolve a mountain of pain in a single moment, if you truly let it sink in. Nothing you're feeling right now is permanent, not even this. There's an old parable about a king who asked his wisest advisor for something that would keep him calm during triumph and steady during disaster. The advisor thought for days and finally handed the king a ring with 4 words engraved inside it. This too shall pass. In moments of unbearable joy, the king would glance at the ring and remember not to lose himself. And in moments of devastating grief, that same ring reminded him the pain wouldn't stay forever either. Everything you're feeling right now, the heaviness in your chest, the ache that seems to have no bottom, the certainty that you'll never feel normal again, none of it is fixed. Every emotion you've ever had has changed shape over time, whether you tried to control it or not. The version of you sitting here right now, drowning in this feeling, is not the same version who will exist in 6 months. That future version has already survived something you can't imagine surviving today. You just haven't met them yet. This isn't a promise that time magically fixes everything on its own. It's a reminder that intensity fades, that grip loosens, that the unbearable becomes bearable, then lighter, then eventually just a scar instead of an open wound. What feels endless right now has an end. You simply haven't reached it yet. Now here's a truth that can either set you free or keep you trapped, depending entirely on how you use it. Some things are yours to control, and everything else was never yours to begin with. Your effort belongs to you. Your honesty belongs to you. Your choices, your boundaries, the way you treat people even when they don't deserve it, all of that belongs to you. But the outcome of your effort, other people's decisions, how someone else feels about you, the timing of when good things arrive, none of that was ever yours. It never will be. Most suffering comes from spending your entire life gripping tightly onto things that were never in your hands to begin with, while neglecting the very few things that actually were. You cannot force someone to love you the way you love them. You cannot force a company to hire you. You cannot force life to move at the pace you've decided it should move. But you can control how you show up today, regardless of what yesterday took from you. The moment you stop pouring your energy into what you can't touch and start pouring it into what you can, something shifts. Not because the outside world suddenly changes, but because you stop bleeding out into a battle that was never winnable in the first place. There's another lie that quietly destroys people, and it's this: the idea that life operates on some invisible system of rewards and punishments, that good people receive good outcomes and bad people receive bad ones, and if something terrible happens to you, you must have done something to deserve it. This isn't true, and clinging to it only adds cruelty on top of pain. Good, honest, kind people lose the people they love. Careless, unkind people sometimes seem to sail through life untouched. It isn't fair, and it was never meant to make sense as some cosmic justice system, because life was never running on that kind of logic. Believing it was just gives you one more reason to torture yourself with a question that has no real answer. What did I do to deserve this? The freeing truth, even though it stings at first, is that this isn't personal. Life isn't punishing you. It's simply unfolding, the same way weather unfolds, the same way seasons change, without asking permission and without keeping score. Letting go of the need for it to be fair doesn't mean you stop caring about justice. It means you stop wasting your remaining strength trying to make sense of something that was never a puzzle to be solved in the first place. Here's something that will genuinely surprise you. The moment you're in right now, the one that feels unbearable, is also loaded with things you're not seeing, because your focus has narrowed entirely onto what's missing. There's a practice that asks a simple but uncomfortable question. Can you feel real happiness for someone else's good fortune, even while you're in pain? Not jealousy disguised as kindness, actual joy, without needing anything for yourself in return. This sounds almost impossible when you're hurting, but it's one of the fastest ways to widen a mind that's been narrowed by grief. When something breaks, your attention becomes a spotlight pointed at the hole it left behind. Everything else fades into darkness. The people who are still here, the abilities you still have, the small, quiet mornings that are still yours. None of that vanished. It's still there. You simply stopped looking at it, because the hole is louder than the fullness surrounding it. This doesn't mean forcing gratitude like some kind of performance, plastering a smile over something that genuinely hurts. It means gently, deliberately turning your attention, even for a few seconds a day, toward what remains whole. Not to erase the pain, but to remember that the pain isn't the entire picture, even though right now it feels like the only thing that exists. So let's bring all of this together, because everything up to this point has been building toward one single idea. Acceptance isn't the finish line. It's the door. It's not where the story ends. It's where a different story finally becomes possible. As long as you're standing outside that door, screaming at a fracture that refuses to unhappen, arguing with a storm that has already passed, gripping at outcomes that were never yours, you stay frozen exactly where the pain first struck you. But the second you stop fighting what already happened, the second you set down that second arrow instead of driving it deeper, something in you loosens. Not because the situation improved, because you stopped adding your own weight on top of it. Peace was never going to come from controlling every outcome. It was never going to come from forcing life onto your timeline, or getting the apology you feel you're owed, or making sense of something senseless. Peace comes the moment you stop resisting what already is, and start asking a much better question. Given everything exactly as it stands right now, what is still mine to build? That question is where your power lives. Not in the past you can't rewrite. Not in outcomes you can't command. Right there, in this moment, with what's actually in your hands. Today you walked through 7 ideas that can quietly rebuild the way you carry pain for the rest of your life. You learned that suffering usually comes from a second arrow you're aiming at yourself. That bending isn't weakness, it's what keeps you standing. That healing starts the moment you stop arguing with the fracture and finally look at it honestly. That nothing you feel right now is permanent, not even this. That your energy belongs where your control actually reaches. That life was never running on a scoreboard of who deserves what, and that even in the middle of loss, there is still light you haven't looked at yet. Only one thing is left to do now. Stop fighting what already happened, and start building what comes next. If anything in this video reached something inside you, tell me which part in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if you want to keep walking this path toward a quieter mind, subscribe to the channel so we can keep going together. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for trusting this space enough to sit with something hard. Set the bone, bend like the bamboo, and keep walking. If you made it to the end of this video, comment, "I made it," and I will reply to you personally. And if it resonated with you, subscribe to join the community and hit the like button if you enjoyed it.